Property tax issues in South Carolina. Act 388 is the act that passed in 2006. It did a lot of things. We pay 1% more sales tax now than we used to. That basically eliminated the taxes on our homes, the school part of our home taxes at least. And in most counties, that's about 50% of what you pay in taxes on your residence. These are legal residents. The folks that have second homes got no benefit out of that part of it. So you and I and everybody else basically is paying a lot less now on property tax because of the 1% money we pay on sales tax. And again, Russell is right. The BEA, the Board of Economic Advisors, said 1% would be enough to pay for all the homes taxes that the schools don't now collect. It was a direct swap. The 1% was supposedly going to be enough to generate the dollars that the schools lost. First year, it was 18 million short. This past year, I think it was around 50 or 55 million short. It's estimated this year it's going to be close to 100 million short. That money has got to come out of the general fund of the state of South Carolina. So the schools are still being made whole, but they're not. The state of South Carolina is taking money from other places, and that's another part of the drain on the budget, if you will, right now. One thing that it said, it says when we go through reassessment, all properties would be capped and they would increase no more than 15%. Houses, commercials, even agricultural property, it gets reappraised every 5 years in South Carolina. Now, what farmers don't see is generally an increase in the taxes on the ag property because you're receiving use value on your farm. If it's bona fide agricultural property, you are taxed at what we call an ag use value. Significant savings there when you look at what land is really worth and what we are being taxed on. So it's a huge benefit there for the ag use properties. But they still get reappraised when you go through reassessment. The ag properties may go from $1,500 an acre to $2,500 an acre in certain locations, depending on where you are. Point of sale, and I beg to differ with everybody on that. It's not a point of sale. We call it an assessable transfer of interest. It says when a property sells in the future, we take the cap off, the 15% cap is removed, and the assessor in the county is responsible for appraising that property at true market value. In most cases, and probably 90% of the time, that will be what the property sold for. But he actually is required to do another appraisal on it. The year after it sells is when it will be reappraised for property tax purposes. So I'm going to use just a farmer for instance. If you decided you're going to sell one of your sons or daughters a part of the farm, you sell it in 2009. At the end of the year, that's considered an assessable transfer of interest. The assessor is going out and he's going to appraise that property at what it's selling for today based on comparable sales. If you transfer a working farm or you transfer enough acreage so that it meets the minimum requirements to still be classified as agricultural property, no consequences as far as taxes. Whoever receives the property signs up for ag use, you continue to be taxed at ag use provided you meet the minimum requirements for ag use property. So that's one thing to think about when you're making transfers. There's a couple exemptions that are not considered ATIs or assessable transfers. Husband and wife transfers are not. Transfers to your children are. Transfers to, if you're going to do something, I'd certainly recommend you get in touch with somebody who's familiar with the property tax consequences of transfers because you need to know what you can and can't do. But that's basically where we are as far as the ATIs, or assessable transfers of interest. If it's bona fide agricultural property being transferred, I don't think we've got consequences to be concerned with right now. It may affect you down the road if you decide to put say you sell 5 acres to a commercial development down the road, somebody's going to be hit with the rollback taxes. So you need to keep that in mind. But if I'm selling my 5 acres to a commercial developer, I'm really not going to care what he does with it. If I get my money out of it, he's going to be responsible, as far as I'm concerned, for rollback taxes.